everyone, I'm Sarah of Rich Textures Crochet and welcome. Today we're going to learn how to crochet Maple the Monster. Maple the Monster is one of several Crochetuggables that I have on my channel here, and they are quite fun to work, quite squishy. They're very plush. They're named Crochetuggle because my children love to cuddle and hug them, and they are the perfect size to do just that. They are worked in a jumbo style yarn. This is the Sweet Snuggles yarn by Loops and Thread. It's super soft, super plush, which makes it very quick to work up in. For the pattern, for the one that I have here, in the sample and on my website at richtexturescrochet.com, I have used 4 different colors. I've used 2 balls. Each ball has about 109 yards, so I've used 2 of this teal color. You're going to need small amounts, maybe half a ball of white for your color B, small amounts of black for color C, and then purple for color C. And the purple is used, Maple the Monster has these fun spike or spines coming down his back, so that's where our purple is used. Also for the pattern, you're going to need a 10 millimeter or an N15 crochet hook. You're going to need several stitch markers, probably 5 of them if you want to have 4 that are similar and 1 that is not as similar to the others. It may make it easier later on when we're marking corners and first stitches. You're also going to need a yarn needle for weaving in your ends, and I used about 10 ounces of a fiber fill. So you're going to need some, depending on how plush or stiff you would like your Maple the Monster to be. It will determine how much of this fiber fill that you're going to use. I used about 10 ounces per Crochetuggle. So thank you so much for joining me. While you're here, don't forget to subscribe. As I mentioned, there are several more of these super fun and cuddly crochet animals here on my channel, and you can find them there. And this channel is updated every week with free crochet patterns as well as crochet stitch tutorials. So let's grab our yarn and hooks and get started. Now, I neglected to mention the final dimensions of our Crochetuggle, and each one measures approximately 16 by 13 inches when laid flat, so they are fairly large. Our animal today, Maple the Monster, is worked in rounds, and he's worked from the bottom up. And so you're going to start by taking your color A and making a slip knot. Now, when working with this super plush yarn, you may find that your particular yarn frays like this one does down at the bottom. So just make sure that you leave an extra long tail and that you go ahead and really secure in those ends later on. So after you make your slip knot, you're going to start by making a foundation chain, and your foundation chain today will be 11 chains. Once you have your foundation chain worked, you're going to begin by working a single crochet into the first stitch, and we're going to mark this stitch, into the second chain from your hook, and we're going to mark this stitch as our first stitch. So taking one of your stitch markers, you're just going to want to mark that stitch. You're then going to single crochet into each stitch all the way across until you have 1 stitch remaining. When you come to your final stitch, you're going to work 3 single crochet stitches into this final stitch, and you're going to mark the first and the third one. So there's 1, mark the first one, and this is going to be your second corner, and then there's 2, and then your third stitch will bring you around so that you're working on the opposite side of the foundation chain, and that is stitch number 3. That's going to be your third corner, so you're going to mark that stitch. You're then going to work a single crochet into each stitch, working along the opposite side of your foundation chain until you have 1 stitch remaining. And when you come all the way across and have 1 stitch remaining, you're going to work 2 stitches into that final stitch and mark the first stitch. That's going to be your 4th corner. We're now going to, for round 2, continue working continuous rounds all the way around. So you're going to begin by into your first stitch, you're going to work 3 single crochet stitches. And you, at this time, are going to mark the first stitch, as this is your first, always your first stitch. Then the second stitch, as the second stitch will form your first corner, and then work 1 more. So you should now have 4 corner stitch markers and 1 first stitch marker. You're then going to single crochet into each stitch all the way down to the next stitch marker. When you come to that next stitch marker, you're going to work 3 stitches into that stitch and mark the second stitch. Single crochet in each stitch across to the next stitch marker. When you come to the next stitch marker, work 3 single crochet stitches into that stitch and mark the second stitch. Once again, single crochet into each stitch all the way across to the next stitch marker. When you come to your next corner stitch marker, work 3 single crochets. And mark that second stitch. You're then going to single crochet in each stitch all the way until you come back to your first stitch. That brings you to the end of round 2. At the end of round 2, you're going to have a total of 30 stitches. From here on end until round 5, the end of round 5, so for 3 more rounds, you're going to continue to repeat that round 2. So in your first stitch, work a single crochet across to that first corner stitch marker. In the corner stitch, you're going to work 3 single crochet stitches and mark the second one, and repeat that all the way down to your next corner until you've worked all 4 corners, and then return to your first stitch. At the end of round 3, you're going to have a total of 38 stitches. At the end of round 4, you will have a total of 46 stitches. And at the end of round 5, you will have a total of 54 stitches. And then you can meet me back here, and we'll continue working the body. At the end of round 5, you'll have increased to a total of 54 single crochet stitches, and you'll have a kind of rectangle that looks like this one. At this time, at the end of round 5, you can go ahead and remove all of your corner stitch markers. You'll want to leave that first stitch marked. I'm just going to switch mine out for a different one here that's a little bit larger. There we go. So you can remove your corner stitch markers. And now for the next 10 rounds, for rounds 6 through to 17, you're simply going to work continuous rounds of single crochet stitches. So single crochet into that first stitch, and then single crochet into each stitch all the way around. You're going to continue working the same direction. There is no joining or anything like that. You're just working single crochets in each stitch all the way around. You'll want to work a total of 10 rounds, so through to round 17, and then meet me back here. At the end of round 17, you'll have worked some of the bottom of your Maple the Monster, and you'll have worked 10 rounds of single crochet stitches. Just a quick note that as you are working, the front side of your stitches, of your single crochet stitches, will actually be on the inside of your work. So you're going to see the back side of your stitches on the outside. I just find it gives it a little bit of a nicer shape as we are working the shaping here. At the end of round 17, we're going to continue working. We're just going to work a few decrease rounds. So for round 18, you're going to work 1 single crochet in each of the next 7 stitches. Next, work 1 single crochet 2 stitches together. To work your single crochet 2 together, you're going to insert your hook into the next stitch, yarn over and draw up a loop, insert your hook into the next stitch, yarn over and draw up a loop. You'll have 3 loops on your hook, yarn over and draw through all 3 loops. That's your single crochet 3 together. You're then going to repeat that all the way around. Work 1 single crochet in each of the next 7 stitches, followed by a single crochet 2 together all the way around until you come to your first stitch. At the end of round 18, you're going to have a total of 48 stitches. For round 19, you're going to single crochet into your first stitch, and then single crochet into each stitch all the way around. At the end of round 19, you'll continue to have 48 stitches. For round 20, you're going to single crochet into each of the next 6 stitches, and then single crochet 2 stitches together. You're going to repeat that all the way around. 1 single crochet into each of the next 6 stitches, followed by a single crochet 2 stitches together all the way around until you come to your first stitch. At the end of round 20, you'll have a total of 42 stitches. For round 21, you're going to single crochet into that first stitch, and then single crochet into each stitch all the way around. At the end of round 21, you will continue to have 42 single crochet stitches. For round 22, you're going to single crochet into each of the next 5 stitches. And then single crochet 2 stitches together. You're going to repeat that all the way around, single crochet into each of the next 5 stitches, and then single crochet 2 stitches together all the way around until you come to your stitch marker. At the end of round 22, you'll have a total of 36 stitches. For round 23, you're simply going to single crochet into each stitch all the way around. At the end of round 23, you will continue to have 36 stitches. For round 24, I'm going to single crochet into each of the next 4 stitches. And then single crochet 2 stitches together. You're going to repeat that all the way around. Single crochet into each of the next 4 stitches. And single crochet 2 stitches together all the way around until you come to your stitch marker. At the end of your round 24, you're going to have a total of 30 stitches, and then you can go ahead and work your round 25, which is a single crochet in each stitch all the way around. At the end of round 25, you will continue to have 30 stitches. At the end of round 25, you're going to have a fairly nice egg-shaped monster, Maple the Monster body. What you're going to do is you're going to, at this time, set the body of the monster aside. So if you want, just place a stitch marker so you don't lose your loop, but we're going to set it aside. We have a few other pieces to work. One of those is the front belly patch. So on my original monster that you saw in the photos and at the start of the video, I worked it in a white. Today I'm just going to be using a little bit of what I have on hand, so I'm using this light gray color. The belly patch is worked in rows, so we're going to start by making a slip knot, and then by working a foundation chain. Your foundation chain is going to be 14 chains. You can make it smaller or larger as you would like. Once you have worked 14 chains, you're going to begin row 1 by working a single crochet into the second chain from your hook, and then single crochet into each stitch all the way across. You'll have a total of 13 single crochet stitches. At the end of row 1, chain 1 and turn your work. Now for rows 2 through to 7, you're simply going to single crochet into the first stitch. Your chain 1 does not count as a stitch, and then single crochet into each stitch all the way across. You're going to do this for rows 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, so for the next 6 rows, and then meet me back here. At the end of row 7, you're going to chain 1 and turn your work. For row 8, you're going to begin by working a single crochet 2 together, then single crochet into each of the next 9 stitches, and then single crochet 2 stitches together. Chain 1 and turn your work. For row 9, you're going to single crochet 2 stitches together over the first 2 stitches, and single crochet into each of the next 7 stitches, and single crochet 2 stitches together. Chain 1 and turn your work. For row 10, single crochet 2 stitches together, single crochet into each of the next 5 stitches, and single crochet 2 stitches together. At the end of this row, you'll have a total of 7 stitches. Chain 1 and turn your work. For row 11, you're going to single crochet 2 stitches together, single crochet into each of the next 3 stitches, and single crochet 2 stitches together. At this time, if you'd like, you can work one more row continuing your decreases, or you can continue on to your final round, which is what I'm going to do here. And we're just going to work a simple round of single crochet stitches all the way around the edge. So chain 1, turn your work, you'll work a single crochet across the top, so there'll be 5 single crochet stitches across the top, and then work a row of single crochet stitches down this rough side. Now when I'm working my stitches here, I'm just inserting my hook where it feels comfortable, where there's a space, and I'm working about 1 single crochet at the end of each row, all the way down to the bottom side of the belly patch. It curls in a little bit, but don't worry, that's going to be fine when we come to sew it on. When you come to the bottom, just single crochet into each stitch across the bottom, and then back up the side, and then you're going to join with a slip stitch into the top of your first stitch, and then you can go ahead and fasten off. Once you have worked a round of single crochet stitches all the way around, you're then going to take your yarn and leave a fairly long tail, because you're going to use this tail to sew the patch onto the belly of Maple. So once you have fastened off, you can set that aside. We're going to go ahead and work the nose patch because it's worked in the same color. And so, yeah, set that aside. And then pick up your color B once again, and for the nose we're going to make one of them, and it is worked in rounds. You're going to start by making a slip knot, and then by chaining 2. Next, for round 1, you're going to work 6 single crochet stitches into the second chain from your hook. You can then join with a slip stitch into the top of your first stitch. You'll have 6 stitches. For round 2, you're going to chain 1, continue working in the same direction, and work 2 single crochet stitches into each stitch all the way around. And you can then join with a slip stitch into the top of your first stitch. You'll have a total of 12 single crochet stitches. For round 3, chain 1, single crochet into the first stitch, and then work 2 single crochet stitches into your next stitch. You're going to repeat that all the way around, single crochet into the next stitch, and then work 2 single crochet stitches into the next, all the way around until you come to your first stitch, and you'll join with a slip stitch into the top of your first stitch. At the end of this round 3, you'll have a total of 18 stitches. Join with a slip stitch into the top of your first stitch, and then you can then fasten off, and once again you're going to want to leave a fairly long tail. Go ahead and weave in any ends. I'm just going to tuck in this nose patch one that we had at the center. And I'll give it a little bit of a trim. There we are. So you can set that one aside as well. Then next you're going to pick up your maple, the monster body, and place the pieces in their desired location. So for my belly patch, I have the bottom of my monster down here. I simply placed it just kind of almost touching, almost lining up with that starting foundation chain down at the bottom. If you find you need to, you can then pin it in place. It may help to keep it there as you're sewing it, but I just placed it on in the middle of my monster right down at the bottom. Now the nose piece I placed right just above that in the center at the very bottom, just under the top loops of my final round. That's where I placed my nose piece. Okay, so go ahead, place your pieces, and then you're simply going to sew around your pieces all the way around. Now the nice thing about this yarn is that it is quite forgiving as you are working with it, and blends quite well. So I'm just doing a simple stitch all the way around, going down into my monster body fabric and then up through the tops of the next loop. All the way around. I'm going to do the same for the nose piece. And then I'll meet you back and we'll continue working some of the pieces of our monster. Once you have your nose and your belly piece sewn on, you can then once again set your monster aside. And we're going to work some horns and some spikes just for his back and the top of his head. So in the original I used black for his horns, but because of the video and how hard black is to see on camera, I'm going to use this blue for both his back and the spikes on his back. And I think on the original my spikes were purple. So for these spikes on the back, you're going to make 3 of them. So you're going to work 3 of these. They are worked in rounds. So you're going to start by making a slip knot. And then by chaining 2. You're then going to work 6 single crochet stitches into that second chain from your hook. And join with a slip stitch into the top of your first stitch. You'll have a total of 6 stitches. For round 2, you're going to chain 1 and work 2 single crochet stitches into your first stitch. You're then going to single crochet into each of the next 4 stitches. You'll have 1 stitch remaining, work 2 single crochet stitches into that final stitch and join with a slip stitch into your first stitch. You'll have a total of 8 stitches. You're then going to chain 1. For round 3, we're going to work 2 single crochet stitches into the first stitch, which is the same stitch as joining, 1 single crochet into each of the next 6 stitches, and 2 single crochet stitches into your final stitch. Join with a slip stitch into the top of your first stitch, and at the end of round 3 you'll have a total of 10 stitches. For round 4, chain 1, work 2 single crochet stitches into that first stitch, which is your same stitch as joining, then single crochet into each of the next 8 stitches. Work 2 single crochet stitches into that final stitch and join with a slip stitch into the top of your first stitch. You'll have a total of 12 stitches, and that is the end of your first spike. So when you fold it, you should see it kind of has a long triangular kind of shape there. You're then going to fasten off, leaving a long tail once again, and go ahead and work 2 more of the spikes. Once you have 3 of the spikes worked, you can set them aside. You're then going to make 2 horns. So for this next part, we're going to make 2 of them. I'm going to continue working in this color blue here. In my original, again, I used the black color. So you're going to start by making a slip knot. The horns are worked in rounds, and you're going to chain 2. You're then going to work 5 single crochet stitches into the second chain from your hook. Do not join, but if you find you need to, you may wish to mark the first stitch, but we're going to work at this time in continuous rounds. For round 2, you're going to work 2 single crochet stitches into your first stitch, and then work 1 single crochet into each of the next 4 stitches. That should bring you back to your first stitch. For round 3, you're going to work 2 single crochet stitches into your first stitch, and then single crochet into each of the next 5 stitches. For round 4, work 2 single crochet stitches into your first stitch and 1 single crochet into each of the next 6 stitches. At that time, you can join with a slip stitch into your first stitch, and then once again fasten off, leaving a little bit of a long tail. If you would like your monster's horns to be a little bit taller, you can work just a few rounds of continuous single crochet stitches at this time. Once you're finished the first horn, you can go ahead and work 1 more. Once you have the 2 horns and your 3 spikes finished, you're then going to attach the spikes at least to your monster before you close a little bit more of the monster's head. So I'm just going to pull back slightly here. You can turn your monster over to the back. Now how I positioned my spikes is I had them so that they went up the center of my monster's back and just positioned them like so. If it helps, you can pin them in place. It's up to you. My top one here is just below that top loop of the final round that I've worked on my monster, round 25, and then the 3 spikes evenly spaced down his back. You're then going to sew them into place. I just want to make sure that they are fairly center here. And actually I'm going to start by sewing in the top one. It's just a little easier to access here on camera. Once you have that first spike positioned, you can add a little bit of fiber fill if you would like, but you're just going to sew it as you did the other pieces onto the back of your monster all the way around. You'll want to join all 3 of the monster spikes before continuing on to work the top of your head. It just makes it a little bit easier to join these pieces if you do it beforehand. So go ahead and sew your monster spikes onto the back of your Crochetuggle. I now have my 3 spikes sewn along the back of my Mabel the Monster. Now I'm going to turn him back over so his front is facing. I still have to embroider on some eyes and a nose, but before I do that, I'm going to work just a few more rounds of his body just to bring his eyes up a little bit higher. So what you're going to do is you're going to pick up where you left off working your decreases. And if you're following along in the written instructions, you're going to go to the section that says to close the top of the monster's head. So to begin, you're going to pick up at round 26, remove your stitch marker from the monster body, and you're going to single crochet into each of the next 3 stitches. And then single crochet 2 stitches together. Repeat that all the way around. Single crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. And single crochet 2 stitches together all the way around to your first stitch. At the end of round 26, you're going to have a total of 24 stitches. You'll then work round 27, which is a single crochet in each stitch all the way around, and at the end of round 27, you'll still have a total of 24 stitches. For round 28, you're going to single crochet into each of the next 2 stitches. And then single crochet 2 stitches together. You're going to repeat this all the way around, single crochet into each of the next 2 stitches, and then single crochet 2 stitches together. And at the end of your round 28, you'll have a total of 18 stitches. At the end of round 28, you'll have 18 stitches. You're going to take a moment to fill your monster with fiber fill and embroider the eyes and nose if you haven't already. So I'm just going to use a little bit of black yarn. I've already attached it here on the inside of my monster, and so I'm just going to do a simple nose now on my original, and I think on this one I'm just going to give them a couple little nostrils here, if you will. So there's one. Over to the other side. And work another just in roughly the same way. At this point, you can be really creative, giving him any type of nose that you would like, and eyes. There we go. I am going to head now up to the top. I'm going to give him a couple of bushy eyes here. Just right above his nose. There we are. Go across to the other side. Once you are happy with his eyes and nose, you can then fasten off that black color. I'm just going to secure it here on the inside. I'm not worrying too much about what the inside of my monster looks like. We're going to stuff him with fiber fill here in a moment, so all of this is going to be hidden. And then just because I do want these to be on quite secure, I am working them in a little bit of a knot here on the back. I will tuck in that end a little bit, and then I leave a small tail on the inside because the yarn will fray. There we are. Then next I'm going to take some fiber fill and just stuff into my monster again. Put in as much as you would like as far as how plush you would like him. I think that's probably pretty good for Maple. And then you are going to then pick up your color A, return to the top, and you're going to close the top of the head completely. So picking up at round 29, you're going to single crochet into the next stitch, and single crochet 2 stitches together. Repeat that all the way around. Single crochet into your next stitch and single crochet 2 stitches together all the way around until you come to your stitch marker. At the end of that round 29, you'll have a total of 12 stitches. You're going to work one more round. For round 30, you're going to single crochet 2 stitches together over each stitch all the way around. At the end of this round, you're going to have a total of 6 stitches. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. You can then join with a slip stitch into the top of your first stitch and fasten off, leaving a long tail. You're then going to take your yarn needle, thread your long tail onto your yarn needle, and then to close the top of your monster, simply weave your yarn needle in and out through that top round of stitches, through the top loops, all the way around till you come back to your first stitch and pull closed. You'll then want to secure it again. And then tuck in that end. I'm going to weave mine through some of the stitches here up at the top. And then I tuck mine right down inside the monster, pull it out through the back somewhere, but then fasten off and kind of tuck that end back in to the inside of the monster. Then have one more piece to finish. Because he's so plush, he's going to be a little bit challenging to see here on video, but you are going to now attach the 2 horns to the top of his head. So just as you did before, take your yarn needle and pick up that long tail. You may want to position them a little bit. So I'm going to place them on the top of his head just above his eyes, like so. And then you can simply sew them on to the top. You'll want to do that for both of the horns. You can then fasten off, weave in your ends, and your Maple the Monster is then complete. So thank you so much for joining me, and once again, don't forget to subscribe and be sure to check back soon for some more great free crochet patterns. Until then, happy crocheting. Bye.